Somewhere beneath the permanent ice of the Arctic, in water so dark that light has never once touched it, a shadow moves. It moves slowly, painfully slowly, almost as if the water itself is too thick, or as if time in this place runs at a different speed than it does up there, in our world, where clocks tick and candles burn and lives begin and end. This shadow has been moving like this for a very long time, longer than you can imagine. It was gliding through these cold, black currents while your great-great-great-great-great-grandparents had not yet been born, before your country existed, before your country existed. It was old when Newton watched an apple fall. It was old when Galileo first pointed a telescope at the sky. It was old when Columbus crossed an ocean in a ship made of wood, believing he had reached the edge of the world. And here is the part that does not feel possible. That shadow is still alive today. Not alive in the way a museum is alive. Not alive in the way a legend is alive. Alive. Breathing. Hunting. Growing, one slow centimeter at a time, in the freezing dark. This is the Greenland shark. And for more than 4 centuries, time has simply refused to finish it. Scientists call it the longest-lived vertebrate known to science. An animal whose lifespan stretches past 500 years. 500 years. The lifespan of a small nation. The lifespan of a language. The lifespan of an entire era of human history. And yet, this creature, this slow, blind, ancient creature, carries no map of all those centuries. It carries no memory of the wars, the plagues, the revolutions, the inventions that happened while it swam in circles in the dark. It simply continues. Today, we are going to meet that shadow. We are going to pull it out of the black water and into the light, examine every scar, every parasite, every secret locked inside its ancient body. And we are going to ask the question that has haunted marine biologists for over a century. How does a shark outlive every other vertebrate on Earth, including us? And why does it look like it has barely even tried? Because the answer, as you are about to discover, is not about strength. It is not about speed. It is not about the things we usually associate with survival. It is about patience, the kind of patience that outlasts empires. Let us start with the obvious question. If this shark is so remarkable, why have most of us never heard of it? Why isn't it on every documentary poster, every aquarium shirt, every list of the ocean's most famous killers? The great white shark gets a Steven Spielberg movie. The tiger shark gets a dozen documentaries. The hammerhead gets its own iconic silhouette. But the Greenland shark? It has spent its entire existence hiding in the least visited neighborhood on Earth. The deep, freezing waters of the North Atlantic and Arctic Ocean, at depths reaching more than 2,000 meters, 2 kilometers beneath the surface. A place where the sun has never shone, where pressure would crush a submarine like a paper cup, where the water hovers just above the freezing point, year after year, century after century. And that is exactly how it likes it. This is not a small animal hiding in the shadows. It is enormous. Mature Greenland sharks reach lengths of 6 to 7 meters, 20 to 23 feet. To put that in perspective, that is the length of a city bus. They can weigh more than a metric ton, some estimates pushing past 1,400 kilograms. Heavier than a small car, heavier than a grand piano, heavier than 9 fully grown adult humans stacked together. In terms of sheer mass, the Greenland shark rivals the great white. In terms of length, it can actually beat it. The largest great whites on record stretch just past 6 meters. The Greenland shark matches that with a body that is thicker, more cylindrical, more built like a torpedo, designed for slow, patient pursuit in near-freezing water. And yet, for most of human history, this giant was a ghost. a rumor. Norse fishermen knew something massive lived beneath their boats. They caught glimpses of dark shapes sliding past their nets, and they told stories about a creature they called the Skalugsuak. But the rest of the world did not believe. The Greenland shark was not even properly described to science until the 19th century, and even then, it remained one of the most mysterious large animals on the planet. Why? Because nobody could find it. It does not come to the surface. It does not migrate to warm, photogenic waters. It does not breach, or leap, or do anything spectacular. It just stays. In the dark. In the cold. Invisible. But invisibility was never its survival strategy. Its survival strategy is something far stranger, and it is written all over the way this animal moves. And in a way, that invisibility has protected the Greenland shark from its most dangerous predator of all, us. Because while we have hunted the great white, the tiger shark, and the hammerhead to the edge of extinction for their fins and their teeth and their fear, the Greenland shark has largely been left alone. It is too deep to reach with ordinary fishing gear. It is too slow to be worth chasing. Its flesh is toxic to eat. Its liver, once prized for the oil it produced, a resource that drove a centuries-long hunt for the species, is the only part of it that humans ever wanted. And that hunt collapsed when synthetic oils replaced it. In the modern era, Greenland sharks are caught mostly by accident, tangled in nets set for cod and halibut, or dragged up on long lines meant for other fish. And even then, many are simply thrown back. Fishermen who haul up a 200-year-old living creature from the deep often cut the line rather than deal with a poisonous, unmarketable giant. The Greenland shark's very uselessness to humans has become, ironically, its greatest protection. It survives because we have never found a good reason to kill it. Because the Greenland shark is slow, almost impossibly slow. Studies of tagged Greenland sharks have clocked their average cruising speed at under 1 kilometer per hour. That is slower than a leisurely human walk, slower than a sloth on a bad day. Some researchers have described it as the fastest way to move if you have nowhere to be. A great white shark can burst to speeds above 50 kilometers per hour in a strike. A mako can hit 70. The Greenland shark swims at roughly the pace of a slow bicycle, and even its top speed, the desperate all-out sprint of a hunting animal, barely exceeds 2.5 kilometers per hour. Think about that for a moment. This is a predator, a giant predator, the apex hunter of an entire ecosystem, and it cannot outswim a tourist on a scooter. So how does it eat? How does a creature this massive, this slow, this old, survive in a world where everything else is fast, sharp, and hungry? The answer to that question is hiding inside its body. And it is an answer that begins with a single, almost unbelievable fact. This shark does not grow up the way other animals do. It does not age the way other animals do. It barely seems to live the way other animals do. Time for the Greenland shark is not a river. It is a glacier. In 2016, a team of scientists led by marine biologist Julius Nielsen published a study in the journal Science that would rewrite everything we thought we knew about longevity in vertebrates. The team had spent years collecting Greenland sharks from the waters around Greenland and the North Atlantic, taking tissue samples from animals that had been accidentally caught by fishing trawlers, and they had developed a technique that allowed them to read the age of a shark the way you would read the rings of a tree. The technique is called radiocarbon dating of the eye lens. Here is how it works. The lens of a shark's eye is made of tissue that forms when the shark is born and never changes again. It is metabolically inert, locked in place, frozen in time, like a photograph taken on the day the shark came into the world. And that frozen tissue contains carbon. Carbon that was absorbed from the ocean, from the food chain, from the atmosphere, at the moment that lens was formed. By measuring the ratio of radioactive carbon isotopes in that lens, scientists can determine exactly when that shark was born. Not approximately, not estimated. The lens is a birth certificate, written in atoms. When the team ran the numbers, the results were so extreme that they had to check them twice. One female Greenland shark, a specimen measuring just over 5 meters, unremarkable in every way, ordinary as far as sharks go, was calculated to be approximately 392 years old. 392. With a confidence range stretching from 272 to 512 years. Even taking the most conservative estimate, that animal was born before the United States existed, before the Industrial Revolution, before the age of sail reached its peak. It swam through the centuries while Isaac Newton was developing calculus, while Beethoven was composing symphonies, while the first photograph was being taken, while the first airplane was being built, while the first computer was being switched on. And when the scientists pulled it from the water, it was not ancient and decrepit. It was a middle-aged adult, still growing, still healthy, still perfectly capable of living for another century or two. The Greenland shark, the study concluded, is the longest-lived vertebrate known to science. The oldest confirmed individual was somewhere between 272 and 512 years old. And scientists now believe that under the right conditions, a Greenland shark could live to see its 500th birthday. 5 centuries. 500 years of Arctic winters. 500 years of slow circling in the dark. No other vertebrate on Earth, not the bowhead whale, not the Galapagos tortoise, not the koi fish of Japanese legend, comes close. But here is where the story becomes truly strange. Because age is not just a number for the Greenland shark. It is a different kind of existence altogether. Consider growth. Most sharks grow quickly in their youth, reaching maturity within a decade or two. The Greenland shark does the opposite. It grows approximately 1 centimeter per year. 1 centimeter. The width of your thumbnail. That is all. A Greenland shark that is 10 years old is barely longer than your arm. A Greenland shark that is 100 years old is only just beginning to approach the size of a grown human. And a Greenland shark does not reach its full bus-sized dimensions until it is several centuries into its life. Now consider maturity, sexual maturity, the point at which an animal is old enough to reproduce. In most sharks, this happens within the first decade. In the Greenland shark, it happens at approximately 150 years of age. Let that sink in. A Greenland shark does not become an adult until it is 150 years old. It spends a century and a half, longer than the entire recorded history of most countries, as a child, a juvenile, a teenager of the deep, growing 1 centimeter a year, waiting, patient beyond all comprehension, for the moment when its body finally decides it is old enough to continue the species. And it reproduces slowly, too. Females give birth to litters of only a few pups at a time, and those pregnancies are believed to last years. Everything about this animal's life is stretched out, elongated, slowed down, as if the Greenland shark is living its entire existence in a different temporal dimension from the rest of the planet. The scientists who study it use a phrase that sticks with you. They say the Greenland shark does not live fast enough to die. Its cells barely wear out. Its metabolism runs at a fraction of the rate of other large predators. Its heart beats so slowly, so calmly, that you could almost mistake it for stillness. This is not an animal that is fighting against time. It is an animal that has made peace with time. That has, in a sense, defeated it. But here is the twist that nobody sees coming. If this shark is so perfectly adapted, so supremely successful at the art of living, then why does it look like a horror movie? This is the moment where the Greenland shark's public image completely collapses. Because if you have been picturing a majestic, noble, ancient sea creature, the wise old sage of the Arctic, a kind of underwater Yoda with gills, you are about to be very disappointed. Or, depending on your taste, very delighted. Because the Greenland shark is, without exaggeration, one of the ugliest, most disturbing large animals on the planet. It looks less like a living creature and more like something that has been dead for a very long time and simply forgot to stop swimming. Start with the eyes. The Greenland shark's eyes are frequently covered by a parasitic copepod called Ommatocoida elongata, a small, pale, worm-like crustacean that attaches itself to the shark's cornea, dangles from the eye like a piece of string, and feeds on the tissue there. The result is that many Greenland sharks are partially or completely blind. Their eyes are clouded, damaged, eaten away by a parasite that uses the shark's own face as its home. Photographs of Greenland sharks show these pale, milky, horror movie eyes that seem to stare from another world entirely. Then consider the skin. Where the great white is sleek, polished, aerodynamic, the Greenland shark is rough, mottled, scarred. Its hide is covered in dermal denticles, tiny, tooth-like scales, that give it the texture of coarse sandpaper, and centuries of scraping against ice, rocks, and the seafloor have left it battered and worn. Its mouth is a wide, down-turned gash, a permanent frown carved into a face that looks like it has seen things no creature should have to see. Its color is a dirty, greenish gray. And here is a wonderful, terrible detail. The Greenland shark's skin is so full of a chemical called trimethylamine N oxide that it is toxic. The flesh of this animal is literally poisonous to humans, causing symptoms of intoxication and neurological damage if eaten fresh. In Iceland, they have developed a traditional dish called hakarl, fermented Greenland shark meat, which requires the flesh to be buried, fermented, and aged for months just to make the poison safe enough to consume. It is, by general consensus, one of the most foul-smelling foods on Earth. Tourists who try it often describe it as tasting like ammonia mixed with regret. So let us take stock of what we have learned about this animal so far. It is blind. It is scarred. It is slow beyond belief. It is covered in parasites. Its flesh is toxic. It looks like the deep-sea equivalent of a zombie. And it has been doing all of this, every single part of it, for 400 years or more. How? How does this creature feed itself? The answer is a masterclass in evolutionary improvisation. The Greenland shark does not chase its food. It cannot. So instead, it ambushes. It waits. It uses its other senses, primarily its extraordinary sense of smell, which can detect the faintest trace of blood or prey in the water from kilometers away. And it patrols the darkness until something edible comes within range. Then, in a single explosive burst of movement that is shocking only in its suddenness, it lunges forward and snaps its jaws around the target. It is the ambush predator's ambush predator, invisible until the exact moment it is fatal. And what does it eat? Everything. Its stomach contents read like a confession from a creature that has never once turned down a meal. Scientists have found fish, everything from small cod to huge halibut, inside Greenland sharks. They have found seals, including intact seal snouts and claws, suggesting that the shark actively hunts seals rather than merely scavenging them. They have found reindeer. They have found polar bear remains. They have found entire chunks of horse that washed out to sea. One Greenland shark was found with the remains of a moose inside it. Another was discovered with the jaw of a young polar bear in its stomach, a predator that outweighed it, that stood at the top of the Arctic food chain, consumed whole by a blind, toothless-looking ancient shark. The Greenland shark is, in short, the garbage disposal of the Arctic Ocean. It eats the living and the dead, the fast and the slow, the predator and the prey. It misses nothing. It wastes nothing. It has been the ocean's great recycler for half a millennium. And that, strangely, is the key to everything. Because what the Greenland shark has done is not simply survive in spite of its limitations. It has built its entire existence around those limitations. It has turned blindness into a hunting advantage. An animal that cannot see does not need to be seen. It has turned slowness into a lifestyle. An animal that cannot chase does not need to hurry. It has turned toxicity into armor. An animal that tastes like poison does not need to fight. Every weakness has been converted into a strategy. Every disadvantage has been forged into a survival tool. It is not the fastest. It is not the strongest. It is not the sharpest or the flashiest or the most feared. It is the most patient. And in the deep, cold, dark world where it lives, patience is the only weapon that never wears out. So now we arrive at the central mystery. The question that the scientists, the filmmakers, and everyone who has ever heard of this creature cannot stop asking: what is the actual biological secret? Why does the Greenland shark live for 5 centuries, while a great white lives for 70 years, a human for 80, a dog for 15? The answer is not one secret. It is a stack of secrets layered on top of each other, each one reinforcing the next. And they all point in the same direction. The Greenland shark has evolved to spend energy as slowly as physically possible. The first layer is temperature. The Greenland shark lives in water that hovers around 0 degrees Celsius, the freezing point, for its entire life. And temperature is not just a detail of its environment. It is the single most powerful driver of biological aging. Every chemical reaction in every cell of every living thing runs faster when it is warm and slower when it is cold. A mammal that lives at 37 degrees burns through its cellular fuel at a furious rate. The Greenland shark, swimming in water barely above freezing, runs every one of its cellular processes at a crawl. Its mitochondria, the tiny power plants inside its cells, produce energy slowly, produce waste slowly, accumulate damage slowly. Its DNA is copied slowly. Its cells divide slowly. Its entire body ages slowly because its entire body runs slow. It is the biological equivalent of a car driven gently in cold weather for 500 years. It still runs because it has never once been pushed. The second layer is metabolism. The Greenland shark's metabolic rate is staggeringly low, among the lowest ever measured in a vertebrate of its size. Its heart beats slowly and calmly, sometimes fewer than 20 times per minute. Its blood moves sluggishly through vessels designed for efficiency rather than speed. It does not chase, so it does not burn. It does not sprint, so it does not exhaust. It floats, it glides, it waits, and every single minute of that patient existence costs it almost nothing in energy. Compare that to a great white shark, which must constantly swim, constantly hunt, constantly burn fuel to sustain its warm-blooded, fast-twitch, high-energy lifestyle. The great white is a sports car, fast, powerful, and short-lived. The Greenland shark is a glacier, slow, unstoppable, and ancient. The third layer is the evolutionary logic. And this is the layer that makes the whole thing make sense. The Greenland shark lives in one of the harshest, emptiest, most food-poor environments on Earth. The deep Arctic Ocean does not offer easy meals. Prey is scarce, scattered, and unpredictable. In an environment like that, an animal that grows fast and reproduces young and dies at 40 is at a catastrophic disadvantage. It will starve before it ever gets the chance to pass on its genes. But an animal that grows slowly, matures late, and lives for centuries has time. It can wait years between meals. It can drift through decades of scarcity. It can bide its time for a century and a half before it finally reproduces, because it will still be alive to do so. The Greenland shark's longevity is not a miracle. It is an adaptation. It is the evolutionary answer to the question, how do you survive in a place where food is rare? And the answer is, don't rush. Don't ever rush. Just live long enough to outwait everything. Scientists are now studying the Greenland shark with the same intensity they once reserved for the naked mole rat, another famously long-lived, cancer-resistant animal, in the hope that its genome will reveal secrets about aging, cancer resistance, and cellular repair that could one day be applied to human medicine. Imagine it. An animal that has spent half a millennium perfecting the art of not wearing out, and we are finally asking it for its advice. The Greenland shark carries, inside its ancient cells, a manual for longevity that we have barely begun to read. Every scar on its body is a chapter. Every parasite on its eye is a footnote. Every centimeter of growth, over 400 years, is a sentence in a story about survival that we are only now learning to translate. But before we close the book, let us linger on one final thought. A comparison that puts everything into perspective. The average Greenland shark reaches sexual maturity at 150 years old. By that age, a human being has already been dead for 7 decades. An entire civilization, the Roman Empire, rose and fell in less time than it takes a Greenland shark to become a teenager. The shark that was born while China was ruled by the Ming Dynasty is today still a young adult, still growing, still cruising the darkness with centuries of life ahead of it. And the shark that is being born right now, in the freezing water beneath the Arctic ice, may still be swimming when the year 2500 arrives. It will outlive your grandchildren. It will outlive their grandchildren. It may outlive the entire concept of the country you live in. And it will do it all without ever once hurrying. There is one more question we should ask before we leave this creature to its darkness. A question that hangs over every Greenland shark sighting, every photograph of that pale parasitic eye, every report of a centuries-old individual pulled from the depths. Could one of them, right now, be swimming beneath us? Could the shadow that passes under a fishing boat in the North Atlantic today be the same shadow that passed under a Viking longship 1,000 years ago? The scientists cannot rule it out. They have measured Greenland sharks at 400 years, and they believe 500 is possible. But the oldest individuals, the truly ancient ones, the ones that have been swimming since the Middle Ages, have likely never been caught. They are down there, right now, in the dark, older than every nation on Earth, older than every book ever written, older than the language you are reading this in. We have not met the oldest Greenland shark. We have only met the oldest one we have managed to catch. And that is a humbling thought. The true champion of longevity on this planet has never once been seen by human eyes. Let us return one last time to that shadow in the dark. That slow, blind, scarred, ancient creature gliding through water that has not seen sunlight since before the age of exploration. It does not know that it is remarkable. It does not know that humans study it, that they measure its lenses and count its scars and marvel at its age. It knows only what it has always known: the cold, the dark, the patient rhythm of its own heartbeat, the slow and certain certainty that it will still be here tomorrow and next year and in 100 years. In a world obsessed with speed, with faster, newer, younger, the Greenland shark is a living contradiction. It is the slowest predator in the ocean and the most successful. It is the oldest vertebrate on Earth and the least interested in proving it. It did not conquer the ocean with strength or speed or cunning. It conquered it with time itself. It simply refused to run out. There is a lesson in that, if you want it. In the noise of our modern lives, in the rush of deadlines and notifications and the constant pressure to be faster, the Greenland shark swims on, indifferent to all of it, outlasting everything that tries to keep up. It is the proof, swimming in the cold, dark water, that sometimes the winning move is not to go faster. Sometimes the winning move is simply not to stop. The Greenland shark has been swimming for 400 years, 500 years, maybe longer. And it will probably still be swimming, in the dark, beneath the ice, long after every one of us is gone. If that is not worth an appreciation, nothing is. Thank you for watching. If you want to meet more of the ocean's strangest, most terrifying, most awe-inspiring creatures, subscribe and turn on notifications. Because there are still shadows in the deep that science has barely begun to understand. And we intend to bring them into the light. See you in the deep.